The Phoenix Suns are locked into the 4 spot in the Western Conference. On today's episode of Locked On Suns, should they stay in that spot, keep trying to win games anyway, and just take the time to develop? Or should they sit their guys, take it easy, rest up, and get ready for the postseason? We'll talk about it all on today's show. Let's go.
You are Locked On Suns, your daily Phoenix Suns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We are back. This is Locked On Phoenix Suns. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And I'm your host, Brendon Kleen, a credentialed media member covering the Suns for the past 6 seasons, a writer at Suns.com, and the host of the Just Basketball Show wherever you get your podcast. Thank you for making Locked On Suns your first listen to start your Thursday. If you're finding us for the first time, go ahead and hit follow or subscribe. Get this show in your feed on all podcast platforms as well as YouTube every Monday through Friday. Stay locked on to your favorite team. You can also follow along on Twitter at Locked On PHX Suns. Aaron Edwards is here, as he is every week, to talk for the final time in the regular season, Aaron, which I honestly didn't know if we'd get here. I thought at various points, I thought that the team might just have to fold because it was such a miserable time. But that's not a positive way to start the show. We are amid a win streak for the Suns. We are looking ahead to what should be an awesome postseason. We got some questions from Twitter. Thanks to everybody who sent those in. A little bit of a mailbag today. But I want to get to one thing first, which is going to be the standings. But on the note of Twitter, before any of that, is anybody on Twitter anymore? I literally feel like sometimes when I put stuff up, and we got some good questions. So I guess, thank you again to everybody. But it just feels like the same 10 people just talking Suns at this point. Like, I think all the people who used to respond to all of us when we would talk about stuff, they're all gone. And now it's just us talking to each other. That's the vibe I get on most game nights at this point.
Yeah, it's super weird. Like, I see the same people all the time. And it's weird because when I first got on Twitter and stuff, I don't see my old boss's tweets anymore. I mean, he rarely even tweets, but I don't see Jason anymore. I don't see Shea Serrano tweeting anymore. It's really crazy how much of the people who I kind of got Twitter for, I don't see their tweets anymore. It's a mess right now.
Now we get all the people who we don't even follow on the Silly For You page and all that stuff. It's weird. I think part of why I'm crabby about Twitter or whatever I am about it is I put up this video last night of Chris Paul warming up pregame. Didn't think anything of it. It's interesting. He doesn't usually do that, and he is. Yeah. I didn't think he was hurt. I didn't think anything. And then the whole night, guess you should do that again, huh? And all that stuff because he played well. Or that's what we brought Kevin Durant in for, to really set the tone as a leader and show people how hard you have to. I'm like,
he's the new Chris Paul.
Can you just take anything at face value? But yeah, so I guess then when I do get replies, it's all stuff that I wish I wasn't seeing. So anyway, we'll get to the questions in a second. What's up?
On the subject of just this finally being the end of the season, because last week we were exhausted already, but I wish that there was just a montage of just at least one video a month of us just from the beginning of the season to now, because I think it would just be crazy the takes that we have to do. We were talking Kobe White in October.
Oh god! And there was a couple weeks where it was should they tank? How close are they to Wemby?
Yeah, so I think if you just looked at just seeing how our vibes just went up and down throughout the season, that's pretty much the Suns season right there for us.
Are you excited for the playoffs? Has that part of it hit you yet, or is the uncertainty with the standings and all that still feeling like you can't get ready properly?
I don't want to get into my feelings on it yet, but yeah, I'm I just want it to be over. Once we got KD and we're 7-0 with them, and yeah, once again, we'll probably get into it, the rotations and stuff like that. I just want to get to it. I want to know who it's going to be and just finally just get to it. This season has been so long, and I just kind of want to get there now.
Man, it's such a difference from last year, because last year was one of the first regular seasons where I remember feeling like any game, I was excited. Like every single game night. And I don't like Suns fans haven't had that since, Nash, really. Like that feeling of when your basketball team or I guess hockey or baseball is great. And it's like, okay, hold on. Now there being 82 of these things is actually pretty cool. I like this because they win all of them. And this year has been the exact opposite. But let's dive into the standings for a minute here before we take some people's questions, because the Suns not only clinched the playoffs last night with their victory, they also clinched the 4 seed outright. And it wasn't just because of them, but it was also Sacramento winning, and it was some other things happening throughout the standings. Yeah, exactly. And so basically the Suns are 4 games back from Sacramento, but they only have 3 left to play, so they're not going to catch them. And then I recommend Dwayne Rankin wrote up a good snapshot of why why they're going to be ahead of Golden State and the Clippers and the Pelicans and whatnot, the Suns, because with the Warriors, they just have the head-to-head advantage. They've beaten the Warriors 3 times out of 4. The Clippers, we don't know what the last game will be, but the best it could be would be 2-2. But the Suns would have an identical division record, and then they would have a conference record that they're not going to be able to lose against the Clippers. If you look right now, the Clippers are under 500 against the West, and the Suns are 29-20. So that gets us to where we are, where the Suns are locked into 4, which is nice because I think people thought they would get to 4, but I think the most likely scenario was them falling to 5 instead of getting up to 3. And so now you have home court in that first round. And the question then becomes, and this is already kind of out there, Monty got asked about it last night, Aaron, is do you take advantage of this limited time you have with Durant back on the court finally, and these guys kind of needing the reps and the chemistry and all this stuff to form? Or do you just say, Kevin Durant's 34, Chris Paul is 37, let's just take this easy, and maybe everybody still plays most of these games, but you reduce their minutes. Maybe some guys don't play the back-to-back on Thursday and Friday of this week, and you mess with it that way. What would you do if you were James Jones, Monty Williams, picking between one or the other of those strategies?
I definitely think no more back-to-backs. Like, there's no reason to do it, especially when you're locked in. Yeah. Players the Lakers might not play Anthony Davis and LeBron today, and they need to win. Like, I think that if something like that with teams that need the win are doing it, then there's no question that we should be doing it. Like, I was saying that for the Nuggets game last week, we should have rested CP, like, if we were going to play a G League squad. And I was, like, kind of shocked, like, yesterday. I mean, I know he needs to get the pace and, like, all that and finally, like, start getting warmed up because he's definitely been holding back the last couple months. But I just really think, like, rest is going to be a huge factor. And, yeah, there aren't going to be back-to-backs in the playoffs, but I just really think the Suns their guys have been trying to play. Like, they've been coming off of injuries and trying to get, like, chemistry together, but at the end of the day, like, the chemistry is fine, I think, and we're probably going to get into a lot more of that stuff, but I think rest is kind of like the bigger thing. Not with KD. I think I still want KD to kind of get his minutes and his legs under him and play with some of those second unit guys a little bit more, because him and Book they're going to be either one of them guys on the court for the next 2 months. So I think that those guys are probably going to kind of need the rest, but they also need to get those second unit minutes too.
I don't know. I look at it as I might just play everybody the whole time because one, I think, we saw last year that it screwed up their rhythm a little bit. I think the reason they struggled with New Orleans is because Devin Booker didn't play. I mean, more than anything, I think that I think one is the Pelicans are good. They're just well coached and tough and young, and they were just fighting hard and all that stuff. And then I think Booker just got hurt. I think we kind of made that series out to be like, whoa, the Suns got punched in the face. Kind of after they lost to Dallas, we were like, oh, and we saw the warning signs coming. It's like, not really. I mean, they won in 6. It wasn't that crazy. And so I think but you did see some of the rhythm get off. And I think there is something to be said for that. And they stumbled at the end of the regular season. I do feel like game 1 of that New Orleans series didn't go great. But that's one. The other part is I think these guys really want to play, like you said. And so you would have to really make a point out of it. Like, we are sitting you. We are going against your wishes. And I do think that if you're going to go and cross that, take that step, you have to really feel like you're doing it for a good reason. And I don't really know what the good reason would be. I think Chris is probably the best candidate for it, like you're saying. Mostly because he's just older. We know the playoff history with him, all that stuff. But I look at how he's been playing lately, the aggressiveness. He's coming off on Tuesday night against San Antonio, one of his better games of the year. And he just looks like he's really hitting his stride. So I wouldn't want to just disrupt that because my imaginary, doctor's hat on makes me think that he'll be healthier if he sits. Like I would kind of trust him and his body. And it feels like he's been ramping things up over the course of the year. So I don't know. I don't think you do it with Booker. I don't think you do it with Ayton. Maybe there's some of these other guys like Landry Shamet missed a lot of time. Who cares? Let him sit if he's feeling any, bruises or bumps or anything. Terrence Ross is an older guy. Like I think
Craig.
Maybe we see some of that. Yeah. That dude has spent more time on the ground than any basketball player I can remember. But yeah, that's where I come down. I just feel like I would just play everybody at the very least Thursday, and then I don't think the back-to-back to me is that huge. Maybe you sit Chris Paul on Friday, and then Sunday I could see to give my last thoughts on this. The Sunday part of it is interesting to me because the Suns might know by Sunday that they're going to play the Clippers in the first round. I don't know if everything will break out to where they'll be certain of that, but if it's any sort of possibility, I would not be trying to show them anything. And so I could see the Suns on Sunday being like, maybe the guys starters just play the first half, or maybe they sit all together just from the perspective of like, you don't get to see how we match up with you 10 days before we're about to play in the playoffs. Yeah. Like, no, Ty Lue, you don't get that. So that's the one interesting part is that the Clippers are the last team, and that could actually be the next team the Suns play the following weekend.
Yeah, I think the difference between last year and this year is our problems that we had, even though we played well last year, we had the best record and all that, like our problems were still the problems that we were going to have. Like, and people, if anything, they were waiting to exploit those till the playoffs. Like once our dude sat, like you kind of had to survive our bench's minutes. And I think that won't be the issue anymore because we get to have KD or Book on the floor at all times. And getting a bucket during those bench minutes when Luka was sitting and Book was sitting and Dinwiddie out there killing us, like that's not an issue we have to deal with anymore. And there were times when Book was hurt and CP and Ayton really played well in that Pelican series, but Devontae Graham would come in and hit a couple of threes, and like that was even tough. I think just being able to slow it down and having dude second score in the half court and having two of the best half court scorers in the NBA, just one of the two being on the floor at the same time, like that's going to help a lot of the problems that people were waiting to exploit last year. So I think like the rest is kind of more important just because we don't have those same problems that people can exploit anymore. They're going to have to figure out how to deal with two of the best scorers in the half court if we do want to slow the pace down. And that's on them. Like, that's not really an us thing. That's on them now.
Yeah, I hear all of that. The Lakers, I thought were going to make a push for this. You mentioned some of their guys might sit. I didn't factor in the fact that I'm not used to the Suns being the team people are trying to avoid.
Yeah,
I mistook that one. That was my bad. I was sitting there looking like, wow, the Lakers are hot, and then I was like, well, do they want to get to 5? I don't think they do. I think they'd much rather play the Kings, and so that's a factor in all of this too. Is a lot of these 4, 5, 6 teams are going to be looking and saying, do we want to play Sacramento or do we want to play Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and all the rest? And I think that'll factor in here as well. But your questions coming up next on chemistry, the rotation, Nice Guys 2, and more. First Today's Show, guys, brought to you by Ibotta. We're always throwing money at something, whether that's summer travel, spring cleaning, a new house project, whatever the case may be. It's time to stop spending your hard-earned money without getting anything returned. Enter Ibotta. You can earn cash back on every shopping trip. Ibotta gives you cash back on hundreds of grocery items, from produce to personal care to pantry goods. Link your loyalty account or upload your receipt after you shop to get that cash back. The average Ibotta user earns $120 in real cash back each year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip. Or you could use your cash back to buy a flight you've been eyeing, go to the game you're dying to see, fancy dinner you've been craving, whatever it is for you. A typical basket of groceries was over $50 more expensive at the end of 2022 than the beginning of the year. Due to inflation, you could earn 2.5 times that in cash back from Ibotta. Cashback comes on hundreds of online brands and retailers as well when you start with Ibotta, including Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. Right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying them by using the code LOCKED when you register. Just go to the App Store, Google Play Store, download the free Ibotta app, IBOTTA, and use the code LOCKED when you download. That's IBOTTA in your favorite app store, and use the code LOCKED. All right, Aaron. So I just retweeted this question prompt again for people. Maybe we'll get some here in real time. But this is actually it's kind of a silly question, but it's a fun topic because Al McCoy is in the news. He said it's from Yeezy at John Yeehaw, who said who is more iconic, Al McCoy or the Gorilla? A little bit of a weird combination there to pit against one another, if I'm being honest, but. Do you have any Al McCoy memories? What's your relationship to him? Because he's retiring at the end of the year. This is our last little stretch with him.
I think it's just like just my little room when I was younger and having like this small box TV and when the Suns used to play on UPN. And I think it's just like his voice on UPN, just like doing my homework with my back to the TV and just hearing him talk and just hearing Shazam and just hearing Quentin Richardson for 3 and 2 knocks to the head, like all that. Like, I think that's probably like my earlier memories of him.
So I had this aunt and uncle that I used to go over to their house like every single weekend for a while, like when I was in middle school age, whatever. And I was, tired of my parents or whatever we all think when we're 13. And I would just try to get away and always go hang out with them because they were younger. And then like, they didn't have any of their own kids and they had ATVs and like all that type of stuff. They lived out in, Santan Valley now, but it was Queen Creek then. And, so they would have to come pick me up every weekend, like after school on Friday or like first thing Saturday morning, whatever it was. And I would always make them turn on the games because it was such a long drive. I lived in Chandler, but it was still like 45 minutes to get to their house from where I lived. And we would always turn it on the radio and just keep up with Al McCoy. So I have those drives and like that exact period, because that's really when I started to like super fall in love with basketball. The Suns were awful, unfortunately, but that's when I really started to like it. And so, yeah, Al McCoy was right there. And I didn't have cable when I was growing up for most of my time. So I only got those ones that were on UPN or then My 45 or whatever it all was called. When they started to split it and half of them were on Fox Sports Arizona, then I couldn't watch those. Yeah. And then eventually all of them were on that and I couldn't watch any of them. So it was Al McCoy for a while.
Yeah.
He was my only guy for a little while there once before I started stealing cable from people and all that. But we'll talk about that at a different time. But yeah, I mean, he's been there for everybody. I didn't know for sure if you would have anything, but I guess I realized everybody does. Everybody has something with this guy. He's been around forever.
Yeah, like we all pretty much like only had a couple channels and we all were watching it on the same just local channel that we had, and he was right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't gone back and watched on Bally the second quarter that he did, but I want to. And so cool. Yeah, I think he'll still be doing playoff games, the home playoff games. So we'll still hear him for a bit, but this is it. All right. What is HWTF?
Hooping with the fellas. We play at Grant Park. We play at Grant Park every Sunday at 7 a.m. to like 10:30, and we get a good run in. It's just a bunch of the Suns Twitter guys. It's a good time.
Yes. Okay. I didn't realize it had such an official acronym. I guess I knew the run was there. I didn't realize you guys had a name for it. But shout out to Serge at Surging Suns. He has a question which is related to this, and it is who has the nicest jumper in the run. And do you have to say yourself for your own dignity and pride here, or do you have a different answer for us?
I know it was Serge wants me to say him, and it's true that it probably is him. D makes the most threes, but Serge just looks the prettiest, so I'll give him that.
There you go. I feel like it's kind of because I saw Kellen Olson. I don't know if he tweeted this or if it's just on his IG story, which maybe I'm not supposed to talk about, but whatever. He posted that Terrence Ross has his vote for the new prettiest jumper on the Suns. And it's kind of the same thing. It's like Terrence Ross's looks cool because it goes so high up in the air. It's smooth. The release is quick, all that stuff. It's like it's Booker or it's Durant. You can't say Terrence Ross has the best jumper on a team with Devin
And I
Booker
think
and Kevin
Booker's
Durant
is
on it.
still the prettiest one. I almost tweeted yesterday, like, Booker's shot is way too pretty to miss so many threes. Like, it looks so perfect every time. And he should just be, I mean, he's still been pretty good from three this year, but he's kind of falling apart at the end of the year.
Kevin Durant does not have a very pretty shot.
Yeah, but it's one of those things when
like,
you figure out how to do it when you're a tall, lanky kid and you just can't switch it after.
his right hand is like on top of the ball when he shoots it, and he's so tall and he puts it above his head that you don't really look at it that way, but it's like a micro version of like what guys like Lonzo do, where they kind of bring it across their body a little bit.
Yeah.
But like what am I gonna nitpick on Kevin Durant's jumper? But it's just funny when you look at guys like you said, where it's like they just figured it out, but it's definitely not how you would teach somebody to shoot. It's just he's a naturally gifted dude, I guess, and he'll take that to the bank. But all right, let's keep going here with some questions. We have chemistry, rotations, and who we want the Suns to face in the first round, which might be a different answer than what we just talked about with who they will face. So we'll get into that all next. First, today's show, guys, brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then bet on everything from the money line to point scorers to threes drained. Let me see if we have Suns Nuggets odds. No, unfortunately not, because the injury report is not out. But the Clippers are 3.5-point favorites at home, quote unquote, although it's obviously in the crypt against the Lakers tonight. Anthony Davis, LeBron James might be out. The Russell Westbrook revenge game. You might be hearing this by the time that game is going on, but if not, that is the type of thing you can always count on FanDuel to have. Plus, they even let you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same game parlay. Don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to FanDuel.com/locked on. That's FanDuel.com/locked on to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, so here we go. The real stuff. Enough of the Al McCoy and hooping with the fellas questions here, Aaron. This is I could have thrown this in here with the silliness of Twitter. This entire thing about chemistry is just made up to me. I don't know if you feel similarly. I would like for everybody who talks about chemistry, whether it's the Suns or anybody else, to actually have to say what thing will be worse because they don't have chemistry. Chemistry is not a thing in the box score. Like, chemistry is not, you don't have 25 points, 15 rebounds, and 3 chemistries. Like, I don't know what that even means, because the Suns are winning every single game they play with Kevin Durant. And then people are like, well, what do you think, though? They don't have much chemistry. Okay, like, I hear you. I understand what you mean, but what does that even actually affect? So this is from Dominic at 4X Dominic. And I think he's just asking our opinion. I don't know if he feels this way, but a lot of people do. So now that I'm done with my rant, can you tell me what you think about this? It feels made up.
I think at first I thought it was like important, but seeing the way they play, like, I don't think it matters, because KD's not playing like the way he's going to play in the playoffs. He's trying to get everybody involved. He's trying to get Kogi involved. He's trying to get Ayton involved. He's trying to make them like know that they're important for when the playoffs come. He's been in the league a long time. Like, he's kind of doing what Chris Paul is doing, but to like sort of a slightly less version. Like, he's still getting shots up, but what did he shoot 16 times yesterday? It's not always going to look like that. He's going to get shots up in the playoffs. And I think his entire what he was trying to do lately is get Ayton involved, get a Kogi involved, and let them know like they're part of the starting five too. It's not going to be CP3, Book, and KD. Like, those guys need to be involved to know that they're important to this run that they want to make. And I think that that's probably been his goal to close the season. The playoffs are a whole different thing. And I think like chemistry doesn't matter right now when KD just wants, like, he needed to make Ayton happy. And I think he knew that coming in. He probably has known that since the beginning of the season when everybody thought Ayton was unhappy. I think you need Ayton ready and good to go when the playoffs start, and he's trying to do that. But come playoffs, like, there's going to be games where KD probably gets like 26, 27 up, and maybe Ayton doesn't touch the rock as much as he wants to. But right now, he knows that for chemistry, he needs to keep the big man happy, and he's doing that. But to be on the floor, I don't really think that's important. Like, I think they can do it with the rest. I just think that he just wanted to make the big guy happy.
I guess my question on it is, here's who played in Game 7 of Milwaukee-Brooklyn in 2021. Kevin Durant, James Harden. Harden had that hamstring thing, although he did have 22, 9, and 9. Joe Harris, Blake Griffin, Bruce Brown, Jeff Green, and Landry Shamet. Do we think those guys had chemistry? Like Durant he didn't barely play, but he was coming off the Achilles and had some injuries. He had the MCL sprain that year. He's had it, I think, 3 straight seasons. And he was obviously on load management, and there was a shortened season on top of all of that. James Harden came early on in the season, halfway through the season, and then got injured in the playoffs. And the rest of those guys are role players who really just were out there to do one thing, whether it's shoot, rebound, do whatever. I just don't think you need that much chemistry when you have the talent. And like you said, we've seen KD be able to make an effort to fit in a little bit more. Like these 4 games now that they've played together have looked a lot different than those first 3 looked. I feel like those first 3 were like this Game 7 against Milwaukee. It's the Kevin Durant show, and everybody's playing off of that. These 4 games have been, Durant coming in and fitting in. And so I think, I'm not saying to win a championship, they don't have it, but I personally did have some worry early on of like, are you going to have to be figuring this out as the playoffs start? And is that going to hurt you early on? I think most of the teams that they might play in the first round, they can afford to be still getting some comfort together and not have it, result in they're not going to be underdogs going into these series or anything as a result of it. But this leads us to Dominic's other question, and you can, Aaron, pick up on any of that stuff on the chemistry side and the continuity side as well with this question. But he also asked, who do you want in the first round? I think we've talked a lot about who they might play and what those matchups would look like and all that stuff, but we kind of know what all the teams are going to look like now. Wiggins is back. Paul George looks like he's probably going to miss the first round, according to Shams. Yeah. The Lakers are healthy. We know LeBron is now back, although who knows if that'll hold up. And that's pretty much the 3 teams that it's probably going to be. Which one would you rather play if you're the Suns? Who do you want to face to get, with all this stuff in mind, who's going to be the most comfortable opponent for you when the first round starts?
I mean, probably the Clippers, just because it's going to be a lot of stress on Kawhi, and it's going to be the first time he had to play all the minutes that he's going to end up having to play. But I was saying, I'd still rather play the Warriors over the Lakers, not because of a fear thing, but playing a team that gets a worse whistle than us almost? Yeah, sign me up. If anything, that'll probably be the most evenly matched ref and whistle-wise than we're probably going to be this entire playoff. So, yeah, I'd rather take that. Yeah, they're defending champs, and yeah, they have Steph and all that, but we had some bad whistles in the playoffs last year, and I'd rather play a team with an even one or worse one than us every once in a while.
Do you think the Suns would be favorites in all 3?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so too. So if that's the case, and we agree that they probably could and would beat all 3 teams, even if it's not a super easy series, part of me does root for the storylines and the fun of it. And the Lakers would be pretty cool. I mean, we've gotten LeBron, KD in the finals, obviously, but it wasn't always a fair fight, let's be honest. And then they've never played each other outside of that. Well, I guess they had the finals with Miami and Oklahoma City, which was an all-time battle. Yeah. And I would like to see that again, but I just cannot get over the possibilities of Durant against the Warriors. His first home game, or his first game back in San Francisco after he still has never played there. So this would be Game 3 would be the first time. That would be an insane atmosphere. The possibilities of him getting into a legitimate fist fight with Draymond Green excites me to no end. And I know those guys are probably fine, but yeah. I want to imagine it. It makes it more fun. And then just the teams. I mean, it's probably the 2 most talented teams, top to bottom, in the West, and you get them in the first round like that. That just would be awesome. So I agree with you. I think the Clippers are the easiest team to beat with PG down, but I do kind of like the idea of the Warriors just because it would be probably one of the classic series in the West and in this generation of players.
Yeah, I think it would have trash talkers. It's gonna have a lot of those. Book and Clay going at it because it's just a
Oh
thing
yeah.
now. I think it would be that. It'd be KD and just the entire Warriors and organization. I think just storyline wise, like people probably want that more. Like you see on Twitter, like if you look up Suns Warriors, people want that more than anything. But yeah, I'd be fine with the Clippers too.
It would be probably pretty satisfying. Not a lot of people are talking about the Bob Myers stuff with the Warriors anymore because it just is old news now. But it feels like very likely he could still end up
It seems like a
gone at
sure
the end of
thing
this
almost.
season.
Yeah, it
Imagine
almost feels
Durant
like a
being
sure.
the guy to put the finishing touches on the end of the Bob Myers era. I'm sure that would be a little satisfying. Like, I they would have re-signed him. I don't think that they like pushed him out of town by any means, but I'm sure somewhere deep down with KD, it might feel somewhat nice to get to stick it to them. Even if
Yeah.
it's not animosity or any sort of negative feelings, it's always satisfying to kind of prove somebody who doubted you a little bit or had some problems with you once upon a time wrong. I mean, I think that's human nature.
Yeah, I think you saw when they were tweeting about like how he wasn't important. Well, they ended up winning after that, but I still remember when the Instagram video went up and he was all like, "We don't need you" and all that, and they posted the picture and he was like, "Everybody looked pretty happy with that trophy that I got them." Like he still like has feelings. I think he was still mad about how everything went down and he was always going to leave. But yeah, I think that beating them would be pretty satisfying, like all around for just like the organization, and beating the defending champs in the playoffs is a huge deal anyway.
Yeah. Very Suns luck to have that happen twice. They had to do that with the Lakers in 2021, and then it might have to do it again here. But selfishly too, I'll add I'm kind of rooting for it to be the Lakers or Clippers because if it's one of those, I may be able to get to LA for games 3 and 4 to cover those. I'm not getting to San Francisco because I'm not going to drop 10 grand to go.
I literally
cover
forgot the Lakers
games.
were the defending champs when we played them in the playoffs, by the way.
Didn't feel like it. Didn't feel like it because the whole team was different. They decided to blow up the freaking team that got them there. And so by that point, it was already, Montrezl Harrell and, whoever else, Danny Green, I think was either gone or hurt or something. I don't even feel like he played. So yeah, they were already dismantling what worked, but either way, it's going to be fun. Kawhi KD is legendary no matter what. Even if Paul George isn't there, that would be an all-time, head-to-head matchup with both of those guys at full strength. We've never really seen that, obviously, notoriously with what happened to Durant in 2019. So we'll see. But by the next time Aaron and I talk, we'll be previewing the first round, which is an insane thing to say. But thank you to everybody for listening. That'll wrap us up for today. Hit follow or subscribe. Make Locked On Suns your first listen every single day, Monday through Friday on your favorite podcast platform to stay locked on to your favorite team. In the meantime, go make Locked On NBA your second listen. Get caught up on everything else going on around the league, matchups, seedings. The coaching carousel is beginning. That show's available on all podcast platforms as well. And I will catch you all tomorrow.